Well, hello. Can everyone hear us? Cool. I'm going to throw it to my co-host, Dan, to take it from here.
Now that we have the emphatic thumbs up from everybody. Well, hello and welcome to this wonderful happy hour that we have lovingly named Three Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place. We figured,
and beer,
of course. We figure it's been 2 days of lengthy discussions about grain and everything that could be involved with it. So we're going to do just a sort of laid back happy hour to cap it all off. My name is Dan Baker. I am 1/3 of the force that would be Beer Busters. We are a Pennsylvania themed beer podcast. We release bi-weekly episodes. And part of the reason we have our fancy microphones is because we are recording this to be released as part of an episode that should be released next Friday. That is what, the 19th?
Yeah. So if you want to be able to hear all this and relive it again in the future, you can find Beer Busters wherever there's podcasts. Like we said, we'll be releasing this segment as a podcast episode. So look out for that.
Yes. And I'm joined here by my co-host and brother, Wayne Baker, as well as virtually with Steph Hefner, our triumphant third beer buster that we have there. We have a panel of guests that are heavy hitters in the local beer and food environments. And we're going to get a pizza demo that I believe Mark may have mentioned earlier, but it's going to be a pizza dough demo from Jeff Michaud, who is part of Osteria, which is an Italian restaurant here in Philadelphia. Osteria, I believe I said that wrong. Sorry. But to introduce the rest of the panel, we have Dain Hershberg, who is from Workhorse Brewing in King of Prussia. We have Dain Shirey, who is one of the co-owners of St. Boniface Brewing in Ephrata. And we have Tom Baker, who is the owner of Earth Bread and Brewery, also here in Philly. I would like to thank everybody for joining us. And I can't also go without introducing our sort of panel co-host, Nate Kresge, who is from GK Visual in Harrisburg.
Good.
So, right at the top here, Nate, Dan told everybody about us here at Beer Busters. Why don't you tell everybody about GK Visual?
Well, you guys still hear me?
Yep.
We're good. All right. We are a video production company in Harrisburg. We produce the series Poured in PA. It's also a documentary film. If you have it, you can check it out on Amazon. The series is released on YouTube. You can check that out. We release episodes. I think we're up to where are we at? 15 episodes on YouTube right now. So you can just type in Poured in PA. Has everything to do with Pennsylvania beer, craft beer. We travel the state, constantly looking for new stories. As these guys are doing the podcast, we're also going to be trying to work this into an episode in the near future too.
Cool. Yeah, so our topic of conversation for this happy hour is kind of loosely themed around what the brewing industry has done in response to COVID, which has been a hot topic on our podcast, as you can imagine, for the past year. But we wanted to focus more on the positive side and talk a little bit about how breweries have adjusted to the situation and found new and innovative ways to conduct business that maybe they wouldn't have thought of before, or interesting new programs that have arisen as a result of the changes you may have had to take in response to the pandemic. So we want to talk about COVID, but we're going to talk about the bright side, the silver lining, and also what we think the brewing industry is going to look like moving forward after this disruptive period that we've had. Now I know we're in about 10 minutes. We're gonna throw over to that pizza demo with our friend Mark Brault and Chef Michaud. So I thought we could real quick, while we have a little time, why don't we start with a question about food and specifically about pizza? And for that, I'm looking at the other Dan here in the meeting, not my co-host, but Dan from Workhorse. I know you guys partnered up with Pete's Famous Pizza and did like a beer and pizza combo deal early on when you guys started doing delivery and stuff. You want to talk a little bit about how that partnership arose and how you think that's going to continue into the future?
Yeah, sure thing. Well, thanks again for having me, guys. It's great to see a lot of familiar faces and enjoy a happy hour beer while my wife takes care of my kids. So I guess I'm winning this deal for sure. We had actually hoped to open a full service restaurant right around April 2020. And as you mentioned, COVID kind of got in the way on that front. But, we decided from the very beginning of opening our brewery, we were going to focus kind of on our core competencies of running a tap room, running a production facility, and self-distribution, kind of running a trucking company. So, opening a restaurant was never really something that we wanted to tackle ourselves. And, we kind of kept our ear to the ground and had gotten in touch with the guys from Pete's, actually actually, because we just liked eating their food. And when we sent out an RFP looking for restaurant partners, they had, kind of thrown their name in the hat, if you will. And it ended up making a lot of sense because rather than opening a full-scale commercial kitchen, they had a very large kind of mobile, I don't want to call it a food truck because it's kind of like a supersized mobile kitchen. But they said, listen, we'll park it there permanently. We'll run the kitchen out of that space. And, that way there's a little bit of flexibility in case things don't go according to plan. We don't have to worry about it making a huge investment. But thankfully, we opened this last fall and it's been great ever since. So it's Workhorse Pizza and Kitchen. We're excited to be able to offer food service 7 days a week. It's great for our customers who, they didn't always want to leave after 2 beers, but, can't really eat or drink without eating. So it ended up working out great for us. And, they've been a terrific partner. They've also got a whole assortment of Greek items on their menu because they have a Greek restaurant in Philly as well. So it's always nice to have a gyro or some Greek nachos with a nice cold beer.
Now, Dan, I have to say, one, thank you for partnering with them because during the pandemic, especially in the beginning, I ordered your beer and their pizza way too much, more than I should probably admit. But there was a lot of really good pizza and a lot of good beer going through this house and my stomach and liver. So thank you for that.
It wasn't too much, just for the record. You did it just the right amount. So full support over here.
You're the man with the perfect answer all the time. Thank you. Now, since we're still talking about pizza and we have a couple minutes before we can throw over to that dough demo, our friends out at St. Boniface have also known the pizza lifestyle a little bit. So Dain, why don't you bring that up a little bit and tell us what you guys might have done with or without that oven during COVID?
Well, thanks for having us, guys. It has definitely been an interesting year, to say the least. I know we're approaching that 1 year anniversary where everything shut down, but it's been crazy. That luckily, our kitchen, we've been doing pizza for a few years now. So while our takeout business wasn't ever takeout food business wasn't ever a big thing, it was easy to transition to that. So we moved obviously all to go. We've tried a little bit of the delivery here and there, but it's definitely been an adventure. But to go the opposite direction of what Dan did at Workhorse, we decided to open a full service restaurant in the middle of a pandemic. So which doesn't have pizza. So I know I'm getting off topic a little bit, but we opened a restaurant in downtown Lidditz called Tide House Lidditz, which is completely different than our tap room in Ephrata. And to say the least, it's been a challenge, obviously, because of the current conditions, but we've had nothing but support from our customers, both in Ephrata, Lidditz, Lancaster, and even further than that, all throughout Pennsylvania. So although it's been tough, it's been great to make it through with our customers.
Very cool.
So when we came up with the topic that we were going to talk about pizza and beer, of course, one of the first people that came in our minds, with all of us being from the Philly area, was Tom Baker from Earth Bread and Brewery. And Tom, thank you for joining us. I'm curious about, Tom, how things have been at Earth Bread, and have your pizza sales greatly increased during this time? And I think you guys are canning as well. So lots of great opportunities for takeout pizza and takeout beer during COVID.
Yeah, thanks for having me as well. We're actually doing canning at Brewery Techni, which is my other project down in Spring Garden. Lemon meringue IPA, product placement. But at Earth, things have been weird. The whole year has been sort of a up and down of, we never really did a lot of to go when we were open in 2019. I never really thought our flatbread pizza expressed itself well, out of a cardboard box. But certainly when the shutdown and COVID happened, we didn't have any outdoor seating, and we transitioned to entirely takeout. And in the beginning, in March and April and May of 2020, we were doing amazing sales. People were generous, tipping, and then in the summer, it got warmer. People had maybe some other opportunities, and it changed a bit. And so now we're back open inside, just at 25%, just because we have to. Although people are being cautious and we're not seeing the numbers, but we're plugging along, trying to do everything we can, change our menu a bit. We just do pizza, but we're thinking about some other things that doesn't move that far away from the brand of bread. Doing some other things that we could, attract a different crowd, maybe. Does that answer your question?
I know that pizza and beer has definitely gotten me through this pandemic over the past year. So, and many beers and pizzas from these 3 breweries represented here. So thank you to all 3 of you. And please continue to make great beer and great pizza.
Very, very well said. So like Wayne said, yeah, we obviously we all drink beer and are very familiar with it, and pizza. And we've mentioned the food aspect of it, but there are a couple beers that we do need to try during this fun little happy hour. And right now we're starting off with Trogue's one. It's Scratch Series 430, which is a label out to the camera. Very nice. Which is a spelt golden lager, which I just took my very first sip of, and it is absolutely incredible. And it's brewed with Pennsylvania grown and malted spelt, and 80 spelt baguettes from the high street on Market. I really enjoy this.
It's very good. Can't go wrong with a Trogue scratch beer. Any Trogue beer, really.
That's true.
So I know Nate there showed us he's also sharing in the same beer at the moment. While we have a couple minutes here, why don't everybody just tell us what you guys are drinking? Dan over there at Workhorse, what are you sipping on?
Yeah, I've been waiting for this, non-25 degree day to crack open a can of our margarita, which is our key lime goza. My little backdrop isn't letting me show the can all that great.
Unfortunately, the label's green.
Yeah, I think you folks will probably be able to get the drift of what I'm going for here. But yeah, really light, very sessionable, low ABV, tart crisp for a day like today. I've just been staring out my window longingly, wishing I could actually drink it outside, but this will have to suffice. So all of your sunny faces make up the lack of me drinking this at a beer garden.
Dain, what do you have? What are you drinking?
Well, I wanted to get I saw you guys were going to be drinking the 430, and I wanted to get to Trogue's this weekend, but I didn't. But I'll have to do with a 225 lager straight out of Lancaster. This was our collaboration brew that we did a couple of years ago with LNP to celebrate their 225th anniversary. And it is it's that warmer weather got me. It has me ready to drink some light, crispy beers, and it's hitting me right tonight. So,
well, to be fair, you should be ready to drink that kind of beer any day of the year, I would argue.
I agree. I agree. I don't know if everybody does, but I totally agree with you.
Yeah. And Tom, you said you were drinking the lemon meringue IPA, correct?
Yeah, lemon meringue. It's just a straight up sort of American IPA, all Citra with some lemon zest. That's 6.8. It's a good beer for today. It reminds me of the summer's coming.
Thankfully. Yeah.
A lot of very summer hopeful beers right now. I poured a little bit of the 430 in a glass to see how beautiful this lager is. And Dain, I have to tell you, I drank a lot of 225 over the last year. St. Boniface is very close in proximity to my home. I can get there in about 20 minutes. So there were a lot of purchases of 225 cases.
We appreciate the support
during the pandemic. Yeah, that's a phenomenal beer. But I just want to show everyone how beautiful this lager is. And I feel like a lot of breweries, I don't know if they just had extra tank space and time, but I just love all the extra lagers we're seeing out. Anyone that knows us at Beer Busters, we are diehard lager fans, but I'm really pleased to see lots of lagers. We're also big pizza fans too, right, Dan?
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Speaking of pizza, it is 5:45 on the dot, which I feel like we should ask if Mark and Jeff are ready for their pizza dough demo.
Mark and Jeff are ready for the pizza dough demo.
Awesome, right? Let's talk about pizza
430.
Oh, even better.
Even better. All right, take it away, guys.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for having me. Really appreciate it. Hope you guys are all doing well. Pizza is definitely a thing we've been doing quite a while here at Osteria. And actually, I was part of the veteran family, so we opened all the veteran family pizzerias and So it's really a passion of mine. So today we're going to show you a couple ways to stretch out some dough. So we have a pretty wet dough at Osteria. We do about 65% hydration. And what I like to do is I like to mix a little bit of durum flour with 00 flour on the table because it's ground a little coarser. So the durum flour is the yellowish flour, and it gives a little bit of coarseness to the table, which helps you roll out the pizza. So it's really important when you ball the dough up that it's nice and brown. Because if you lose that round shape in the beginning, you're going to lose the round shape at the end. I like to start by just kind of patting it, getting it a little bit flat one way, and then I'll rub my fingers just to create that border. And then press down in the middle. I'll flip it. I'll press down in the middle again. And I'll usually pull it towards myself, and I'll start to go in a circular direction on the table to start to stretch it out. When I get it to about a little more than half of what I'm looking for, I'll pick the pizza up, get the flour out of the way, kind of shake some of that flour off. And I'm using the backhand of my knuckles, and I just want to stretch it slightly, turn it, again, turn it, whoops, more time. I'll bring it towards the edge of the table just to flatten it out. We'll make a nice round dough, and then from here we'll top it. It's cheese, whatever your toppings want to be. You take a pizza peel, put it underneath, and it goes right in the oven. But it's really important not to squish down the crust because that will stop it from growing. When this pizza's in the oven and baked, you'll have a crust about that big. There's another way that people like to do pizza as well. I like to do that way because it keeps the pizza pretty even. And if you look at the table, again, one more time, Mark, you can see there's no like really thin spots on the pizza. Where it's really important because when there's thin spots in the pizza and you put it in the oven and you go to move it with the peel, they'll tend to rip. So you kind of want to have somewhat of an even structure, an even stretching of the dough. And then if you stretch it too much, now you can start to see that it's going to start to rip. You get thinner areas here, and it gets a little thicker on the bottom. So you just want to try to keep it nice and even. That's one of the key points. Another way people can kind of stretch pizza, a lot of people will start directly. They'll kind of make the borders. Make sure you keep it nice and round. Press down the middle, and then without stretching at all, they'll just start to work their knuckles around the edge of the crust. And you just keep working your knuckles around the edge of the crust, just stretching it slowly. It's going to have some nice elasticity. And then you can get the same effect. You have a nice round pie. Make sure you get the air out of the bottom. That's why I like to bring it towards the edge of the table and push it back forward. I usually like to roll pizza dough on marble. It's a little bit easier. It doesn't stick as much to the marble as it does to the wood. But you make sure you get all that air out underneath. And try not to leave it on the table too long. If you put the sauce on there too long, then it'll end up sticking to the table and you'll have a hard time getting it on the peel. Those are the two main ways that we stretch the dough here at Osteria. I prefer to do the table stretch, which I'll do one more time.
It makes it look easy, huh?
So when you get a dough that has a bubble, this had a bubble on it. Don't worry about the bubble. You can just pat it down. The bubble will just disappear. It's like it'll pop to the other side. But those air bubbles are good. But you want to make sure you're pressing down the middle. I'll even give it a slap just to try to make sure that all the air is out. And then I'm using this part of my hand and this part to guide it. So this part's going out, this part's turning it. Out, turn, out, turn. And I'll do that until I get about half to 3/4 of the way that I want to go with the pizza. And then I like to lift it up. You can slap it a little bit to get the excess dough off. And then you just want to give it a couple little stretches to make sure you get a nice round pie. And we do about 12, 13-inch pizza here in Osteria. And the flours we use here, it all depends what style of pizza you're looking for. We mix our flours with a high gluten flour, and then we use a low gluten flour, which gives us the time where we can ferment this dough for 48 hours, but it'll last all the way for about 120 hours without it deflating and not being able to use. And the longer you can ferment your pizza, the more digestible it is. The yeast really does its work. It gets to eat everything, all the food that's inside there. It eats all the flour, the water, and that helps the yeast. That helps the yeast grow. As it grows, it's producing. It's building all those, giving off carbon dioxide, giving all those bubbles inside the dough. So when you go to cook it, it gives it that last puff from the oven before it dies, which gives it that lightness and crispy crust. So thanks so much for having me. Hope you enjoyed the demo.
Very much so. Thank you for educating us. Now we also
makes it look pretty easy, huh?
Yeah, definitely.
Very, very easy.
So peek behind the curtain, Deer Creek, they sell pizza dough kits, which they were kind enough to send to me and Wayne and to Steph. And Wayne did ours between last night and today. And as he was watching Chef Michaud do the demonstration, he's like, I should have done that. I should have done that. I should have done that. So it was really cool to see that and know that I didn't play a hand in anything. However, Wayne, I got to say the pizza that you made turned out really good.
Yeah, I've just been taking my first few bites here because we wanted to play along and make our own pizza. And lots of places, like we mentioned, Deer Creek, a lot of breweries are selling pizza kits now. You can get mixes for doughs, a lot of different places. It's fun. It was a little nerve-wracking. It's the first time I've ever made dough from scratch. But it turned out pretty good. Mine didn't look, even my dough didn't look as good as Chef Michaud's, but in the end, it's edible and it's even a little bit tasty. So I'm pretty proud of myself. Steph,
that's awesome. There's a reason why I was on the camera and not on the pizza station.
It's definitely a lot of work, but I feel like it paid off. I mean, my pizza is pretty, right? And it rose. We were a little nervous last night because we've made a lot of bread over quarantine. I feel like we're becoming, I don't want to say experts, but we're getting better at making bread. And this is the first time I've ever made pizza dough from scratch. So I was like, wait, we don't need to give the yeast sugar. Wait, why is it not bubbling? Wait. And I kept like all my history of making bread was coming to mind, but we were patient. We followed the very meticulous directions on the Deer Creek website and, it worked out. It's really pretty. I have to say, though, I don't know that I could do this every time I'm making pizza because I could go to my grocery store and buy a frozen ball of dough. But, it is definitely
buy the pizza stuff.
Yeah, well, that's true. We could just go to one of these amazing places and just get pizza to go. That would be a lot easier. But it definitely was fun. And I'm glad to have experienced it now. And who knows, maybe again, maybe not next week, but again, sometime. Nate, did you make your own pizza or what?
So I didn't tonight. I've been running around like crazy, but we have in the past, and we actually got the kids involved and they had a blast doing it. And, I thought for sure either I'd screw something up or the kids would screw something up, and it turned out great and it was delicious. And we're all kind of shocked that it was edible. So.
Even a bad pizza is still food. That's what I tell myself when I get bad ones.
It doesn't need to look good.
Plus, if you have beer to wash it down, what can go wrong, right?
I don't know. I can pinpoint the worst pizza I've ever had in my life. And don't worry, it was not on this coast. It was definitely the other coast in California. No offense, California. There's a lot of great stuff out there, but pizza's not one of their strengths. Maybe Deer Creek should branch out there and sell your dough kits and then just have like guidelines for use this sauce, use this cheese, and then you'll have a great East Coast pizza.
Well, pizza definitely hits differently the more beer you have. So, and time of day, I should say, or time of night, that always has a factor in there too.
This is true.
Okay, now that I'm actually eating it, it may have been worth all of that time and effort. It's really freaking good.
Well, and coming the flour coming from Deer Creek, at least now I'm going to admit that the rest of my ingredients came from ShopRite. So
I made my own sauce. I made sauce from scratch.
But I knew I was working with a quality flour to begin with. So no matter how much I may have screwed up the process, I knew it was at least going to taste pretty good in the end. So, and it does. Very cool.
There's a lot of local flour now. Small Valley Milling, Castle Valley. I know Jeff uses some local flour here at the restaurant.
Very cool.
Well, we actually happen to use Small Valley for our pizza dough in Ephrata.
Nice.
Halifax, yeah. So just north of Harrisburg, in case you're looking for it.
Cool. Yeah, I was just going to say, for any of you guys, the breweries, Earthbrand breweries particularly, do you source local grains and flours? Have you worked with any local grains for your pizzas and stuff?
Yeah, currently we're just using King Arthur, but we used to use spelt from Daisy, a small mill out in somewhere far, but in Pennsylvania. We did that for a long time until availability became an issue and we couldn't get enough flour to meet our needs. But yeah, I'm really intrigued by the Steer Creek flour. I'd like to try that out.
Well, we can recommend it.
Now, I know we still have a list of questions. We want to get back to the topic at hand, but while Mark is close by, we also have the 2 PA Pride beers to enjoy during the happy hour. There is the PA Pride, the Hazy Pale Ale was the first release, and then the Pilsner, which of course I was most excited about, literally my favorite beer style, was the second release. Mark, do you want to quick tell us a little bit about this line of PA Pride beers? And then Dan, perhaps we can get back on our discussion.
Sure, yeah. A collaborative effort between a lot of breweries in Pennsylvania, many of which that don't have any canning or packaging capabilities. So a way for people to come together, use some local ingredients, promote Pennsylvania beer brewers, and get some really tasty liquid in cans that can be sold for off-premise consumption, which has been a challenge for a lot of the smaller people this year. So yeah, we've done 2 versions of it, a Hazy Pale Ale and a Pilsner, and we'll see. It seems like it's been well received, and we may do a few more of these.
Very cool. Pennsylvania is good for a lot of things, beer, grain, but also collaborations. There's a lot of collaborations in Pennsylvania, especially in the beer industry. And it's cool to see this one. I'm excited to crack open this Pilsner. I'm excited for the Hazy as well, but I'm more excited for the Pilsner.
Yeah, that's fair to say. I have to say, I like the artwork on it. You have PA Pride, for those who can't see it, PA Pride in an elongated Pennsylvania. You have the Keystone in there. You have the farm, but then you also have deer with the signature bantlers.
The bantlers.
Yeah, we snuck a few branding elements in there. The artist, Lindsay Hopkins, is actually from Massachusetts, does a few labels for some people close to us. We connected with her through a Locust Lane brewing company, actually. But yeah, she did a really nice job, and she's got some fun ideas for other variations of it for future styles, too, if we keep it going. So
I have to say, this beer is delicious, as I figured it would be, and it pairs very well with pizza. What beer?
Yeah, it's a crusher. It's a very crushable beer.
Yeah.
You guys have some favorites that you like to pair, the beers that you like to pair with your pizza?
Ooh, good pizza and beer pairings.
Oof. All right, I got to be that guy that mentions the word. For a very long time, I was a huge fan of Domino's Pizza, and I know this is the wrong company to say that in, but
the cheese on a cardboard. Okay.
Listen, I'm not going to lie. It was because we lived with a guy who kind of forced his way into our basement to be a roommate. Like, he was kind of squatting in our basement. We just kind of let it slide. And instead of paying rent, he used his dad's credit card to order Domino's like 4 times a week. And I'm not exaggerating. It was 4 nights a week that he ordered Domino's for us. And Dad never said anything. So we just kept the Domino's coming. So for a very long time, I was diehard Domino's. And for that, I feel like you need, I don't know, like PBR or something.
Domino's a PBR, yeah.
But if you're looking at like
after a night of drinking in college, but I things have changed since then.
Yes.
Is anyone less concerned about this guy squatting in your house and more concerned about the Domino's? Like, that's where my head's at right here.
Well, I mean, he wasn't necessarily, we knew the guy, so he was a friend. He just showed up at a party and never left, and then just took over our basement.
So those guys are out there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone in the chat has suggested Natty Light. I'd just like to mention
with Domino's. Absolutely.
With Domino's.
And this goes for anybody that's watching the panel now. Please make use of the chat, throw any questions or comments into there, and we'll see what works its way into the conversation. But now that my tastes have evolved, I mean, if I'm looking at a really, really, really good pizza, I'm a fan of lagers and pilsners, something light, crispy, crushable, nothing too over the top hoppy, nothing to dominate the flavor too much. Because if, I want to be able to taste both of them, the pizza and the beer.
I want some malt in my beer. I want to taste some malt.
It's fair.
Yeah.
This is one thing I don't think about too seriously, though. I'm realizing. I just really love pizza and I really love beer. So I'm just going to have pizza and I'm going to grab a beer. I mean,
let me ask this way. Have you ever had a beer that was terrible with pizza?
No.
The only beer that's terrible with pizza is a beer that's terrible by itself.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Good point.
Yeah. But why don't we circle back to the topic at hand?
We probably should.
Yeah.
I'm going to spend too much time thinking about that. So
we're podcasters, we're used to tangents.
Right. So like Wayne said at the top of the panel, what we really wanted to do, besides talk about beer and pizza, two of our favorite things on this planet, we also wanted to talk about some of the silver linings that could have come from businesses having to pivot during the pandemic, and curious really to see what we think the beer scene will look like after this is in the rearview mirror, because there are things societally that are just not going to change, and maybe it's for the better, maybe it's more of a hassle than it might be worth. But one thing is for sure, none of our lives are going to be the same after this, and that goes to the way that we consume food and beer. So I guess, why don't we start with Dan? We already touched on what Workhorse had done with Pete's, but have you guys done anything else in the past year to kind of help figure out how you're going to navigate through COVID?
Yeah, I mean, essentially our operating model coming into the pandemic was, we have a 70,000 square foot production brewery and a massive taproom and event space, and we wanted to crowd as many people into that space as possible, whether it was through private or corporate events, large public events that we would throw. And that clearly went out the window. So while we were able to, I think, leverage the scale of our production facility to take advantage of packaging and, kind of grow relationships with our partners in distribution, that was a big part of it. But really the pivot to at-home delivery, from day one. And it's funny to have this conversation, a mere few days before the 1 year anniversary of when this all went down. But, we looked at it, I think, first 24 hours probably feeling a little fatalistic of, what's going to happen? Did we, make a bad decision investing in a brewery that may or may not exist in a year? But thankfully, I don't feel that way anymore. And after, again, 24 hours waking up, realizing that we had, a dedicated crew of bar staff that didn't ostensibly have a job with no bar to run. Everyone just stepped up and said, we want to help however we can. And said, well, do you like driving? Sure. Do you like selling beer? Okay, cool. So we basically kept all of our team in place and ended up growing a fleet of, at-home delivery drivers. And it's been a huge part of our revenue mix for the last year. And I don't anticipate that changing. I mean, it's not at the peak as it was in May of 2020, but it's still a pretty significant chunk of our overall revenue. And I think there's a lot of folks who, whether or not they are going to come back to the tap room in the future, I assume they will at some point. Even the folks who do come, they still order for the convenience. So I just think in general, having an opportunity to connect with people, to make the process easy. We do, I think, a pretty decent job of making the online checkout side of things very straightforward, very clear about communication when we're showing up and all that good jazz. I think it's been really well received. And frankly, just as a consumer, I try to make all my decisions based off of what I would want as a consumer, not as the person running the business. And to be able to sit at home and, click a couple buttons and have a mixed case of beer delivered to my house, in Center City, I get my beer from Pete's within an hour. I mean, it's awesome. It's super convenient. So, and I know we're not the only ones out there. I've taken advantage of a lot of our friends in the industry who are doing the exact same things. So it's just cool to see how everyone, I think, was so willing to roll up their sleeves in the industry and just, not accept that, we have to live in a world that's challenging. We'll find a solution and we'll find a way to make it through here.
Very cool. And I think if you were to take a survey and just ask brewery owners, what have you changed in response to COVID? I think the very top of the list would be delivering, delivering beer, delivering food, all that kind of stuff. And I actually want to get some thoughts from Tom, because anyone who's familiar with our podcast will know that everybody here has pretty good friends of the show that we've had on the podcast and talked to a lot, with the exception of Tom Baker. We haven't really had a chance to connect with you as a podcast. So I'm kind of curious to get your take. I know you mentioned about being a little reluctant to put your pizza in boxes and things like that, but what kind of adjustments did you make during COVID that you think will continue going forward in how you run Earth Bread and Brewery?
Wow. I think this isn't directly answering your question, but one of the big things I think that happened during COVID is it made my wife Peggy and myself at Earth really take a look at our staff. So with with Black Lives Matter and, and with the pandemic and all that kind of stuff, like being able to keep people employed. Obviously PPP money helped with that, but the focus to try and get everybody to $15 an hour, which we're working on and nearly there. Granted, I don't know what's going to happen after the money runs out, if people don't come back, but I'm optimistic. I think pizza and beer, it's a great combination, and I think it's an easy sell. Again, I don't know if we're going to do too many things different. We've always tried to stay true to our vision of like what our brand was. We've had chefs that have come through our door that have tried to expand our menu to pastas and things like that, and we've been sort of resistant to that, trying to make our pizza better whenever we can. But I don't know. I think the to-go model is never going to go away, or at least I think that's going to be the case. And we're gonna just have to figure out how to package and provide pizza to people that they're going to be able to take home and eat. I think that's still going to happen. So.
Yeah, you kind of learn what you can do when you have to do it. Yeah, that's
right.
That's interesting. And you brought up a really interesting point that, like, honestly, in all the preparation we did for this panel and what we were going to talk about, I didn't really consider as a topic of conversation. And that is that not only has the past year forced businesses to change the way they operate because of government regulations to, curb the spread of COVID, but also it's been a year of some cultural and civil unrest and a lot of reckoning for a lot of, things that have been wrong in our society for a very long time are coming into the light and have come into the light this past year. So it's interesting that you mentioned taking a look at your staff and taking a look at, how you can take care of people, how you can get people a good living wage, how you can do all that. So I'm actually interested for our other panelists here, how has COVID and the pandemic and everything else that's happened politically and socially otherwise over the past year changed not just what you do, but your philosophy and your approach to how you conduct your business? Have you changed your viewpoint on how you conduct business? And we'll go to Dain first, because you haven't spoken for a bit.
Yeah. Well, I think there's so many things going on at one time. You're trying to figure out, number one, how to survive as a business. You want to make sure that your employees are taken care of. And I think that has always been something that we have prided ourselves at St. Boniface, is making sure our employees are taken care of. We did whatever we could to keep everybody employed as long as we could, and try not to cut back hours. And it, with the support of the community and our guests, we were able to do that. But it's tough to figure out which thing to focus on first, I guess, because if you can't keep the business going, then all those other things, and I'm not downplaying, and please don't take me that way, all those other things don't matter, because you're not going to be able to help anybody in your company survive. So yeah, we had to cut back hours, but we were still trying to pay everybody as their regular paychecks, and yeah, some of the government programs helped, but it is definitely it seems like one hurdle after another, and you have to unfortunately figure out one thing before you can take care of the other. And I don't know if that gives you enough of an answer or not.
It's essentially, it's you're laying down the track in front of the train, and your runway only gets shorter when things like a global pandemic happens. So yeah. I did also want to touch on now that we're talking about sort of the social side of responding to 2020, really. Dan, at Workhorse, I know you guys did the Workforce IPA, which raised money to benefit people in the service industry. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I think some of what Dain was touching on too is this challenge of, entrepreneurship and running a business in and of itself is literally impossible. Every single day you're putting out fires. There's no two way around it. It's one of the most I guess, kind of like double-sided coins possible, right? You love being your own boss, having your own direction, and really growing your company with your team around you. But it is incredibly challenging. So, that in and of itself is a hurdle, right? And then you add all these other factors you've just discussed. So our mentality was, what can we do that is kind of in our wheelhouse, right? Like, what do we do well, right? We have Nate Olwine, who's our brewmaster, who's just brewing incredible beer. Like, let's let him make incredible beer that we can put in the hands of people, that people want to buy, and in turn use that money from those sales to benefit people in need. That was kind of like, let's not reinvent the wheel. Let's do what we do well. So the Workforce IPA really stemmed from, I think, our appreciation and kind of recognition that without the support of bars and restaurants, and a lot of those are fellow breweries too, like there's a lot of breweries that put our beer as a guest tap, and those folks helped us grow our brands and kind of get our, our position in the market where people had heard of us. And, without them, there is no Workhorse. Without our customers, there's no Workhorse. So, we really thought, how do we support those folks? How do we help them through this fight? When we realized that we were going to make it through to the other side. And, Workforce was essentially our response. So we brewed this kind of a similar beer to our New England IPA, which is our best-selling beer, put it in cans and decided to donate $1 from every sale, whether that was the 4-packs out of our tap room or to our retail partners. We'd go to the Restaurant Workers Community Foundation, which offered a number of different support mechanisms, whether it's through low-interest loans or direct payments to restaurants in need to help out. Because, again, our vision here is that whenever we do emerge on the other side, those are going to be, a key part of our growth strategy, but they're also, just as humans, they're places that, it's the first thing I want to do when I'm vaccinated. I want to go to a restaurant. Like, I want to go out and see people and get a draft beer. Like, I'm craving that desperately. So we really felt strongly about doing that. And we have a whole set of initiatives under the broader Raise Your Glass campaign. We have a couple other similar to the Workforce things coming out here over the next few months. We're partnering with a charity called Legacy of Hope on a beer that we'll be donating to cancer research. So it's something that it drew me to the brewing industry because of all the people who are on this call, panelists, participants, what have you, you guys know this industry is so collaborative and so willing to give back. It drew me as someone who had not previously been involved with it, and it's something that I think is really part and parcel of what Workhorse will do moving forward.
I have to say, I really appreciate the creativity and the positivity coming from our panelists and how they've kind of change gears and just problem solved. But there's a lot of pressure on your shoulders as a business owner, especially right now. And I just can't help but think and perhaps appreciate how positive you all are. And I'm just curious, how have you managed to keep that positivity and continue to be motivated as a business owner during this time? Because I can't imagine it's been easy.
Drinking beer and eating pizza, right? Isn't that what we were discussing? Like, that's
touche.
When we were spitballing titles for this segment, and we have to credit Nate because he came up with the riff on the Two Guys and Girls on Pizza Place. One of the things I was trying to hone in on as a theme was that, like, tough times call for pizza and beer. Like, that'll get you through anything.
We can use yours next time.
All right. But yeah, Steph raises a really good question. I'd like to invite our other panelists to touch in on how you guys stayed positive through all of this.
Well, I'll jump in here. I mean, it's been tough. It really is, to put it honestly. A lot of sleepless nights, a lot of waking up at 2:30 and thinking about it. What's the right thing to do? What's the best thing to do? Because sometimes those are two very different things. And along the way, it's draining. As a business, it's draining because you're never, obviously in business, no matter what, you're never going to make everybody happy, unfortunately. But I've seen so much of both ends of the spectrum where you were trying to keep everybody safe and do what's right, and you have people who are complaining that you're doing anything, and people who are complaining that you're not doing enough. And it's exhausting, to say the least. And I don't know if other panelists have experienced that, but that, I think, is the most difficult thing, because you're trying to do what's best for everybody, and it's just not going to be good enough along the line. So you got to take the wins when you get them. You got to take the thank yous and the good emails that you get from people thanking for everything you do, and look at those instead of looking at all of the negatives. But it's tough.
Yeah. Well, and you also have to remember that if the people out there who were cheering you on didn't outnumber those who aren't, you wouldn't still be in business. Like, you're obviously doing something right because you're still around, and everybody loves St. Boniface. But yeah, let's go to Tom. How have you managed to keep up that positive and motivation to just keep going through what has been a crazy time?
Yeah, well, I mean, 2019 was Earth's best year, both both revenue wise and profitability wise. So I just think back to those times and think that people, yeah, I mean, we've been around for 12 years, and our business just seemed to be great in 2019. So I'm just optimistic that, yeah, there's a bump in the road in 2020, but that, people love what we do, and they're going to come back. And I mean, I guess that's what keeps me thinking that things are going to get better.
Yeah. And I think, speaking for the three breweries represented here, you guys have all been around. Workhorse fairly newish compared to the rest, but you've all been around for a decent amount of time and have all been well praised in the beer community. So you obviously were doing something right before. And so, yeah, I think just knowing that once you get to the other side of it, that you have a solid business, you have a solid business plan, and as long as you can survive the tough times, that will come back. So that's really cool to hear. We did have a question in our Q&A box here, and I didn't want to ignore anybody. So Adam asked, which beer styles pair best with pizzas that have red meats, veggies, or white pizza?
Oh,
so anybody have any beer style suggestions for different styles of pizza?
I mean, my go-to.
Well, I always stick with Garrett Oliver, and a good farmhouse ale pairs well with anything. But no, well, I can't speak to red meat pizzas as a vegetarian, but I do love myself a white pizza. Thank you for mentioning that. And I like mushrooms and tons of garlic on my white pizza. So for me, I think I would go like a nice clean Helles with that. Or maybe even a spicier saison, not like a fruity saison. For a veggie pizza, now I don't know about you, Adam, but when I have a veggie pizza, of course, I put lots of spicy peppers on those pizzas because I like spicy peppers on my veggie pizzas. So I may go something a little more on the hoppy side or something.
Steph likes spicy peppers on anything, not just pizza. let's get that clear.
I mean, spicy is the best, but like I said early, like if you really love pizza, just pick a beer that you really love, and I feel like it's a good combination. But I don't know. We should go to the beer and pizza experts. Are there any recommended beers for specific types of pizzas?
You have 30 seconds to think about it.
I don't have anything worthwhile to contribute here.
I'll say, I think it's probably, even the folks who have not met me, I should add the caveat that of the people on this call from a beer background, I'm guaranteed to be the least experienced, and certainly probably the limited knowledge base as far as specific pairings. But what I will roll back on or lean back on is, traditionally when people are like, oh, you pair a red wine with meats, or you pair a white wine with fish, right? Like those rules, they're there for a reason. You can fall back on them. But at the end of the day, you drink what you like to drink. So I know what Steph was saying, like any beer pairs well with pizza. I think you just try stuff. Like that's how I got into beer in general, and even opening a brewery, learning about all these different styles that Dave was brewing, some of which I'd never had. I was just, I'm going to try them and I'll see what they taste like. And if I like them, that's great. And if it's not traditional, it doesn't make me a bad person, right? It does, maybe a little weird. It doesn't make me a bad person though. So I would just suggest for Adam, like try everything, try every pairing, see what stands out. And if you default to like a Vienna lager and a pepperoni pizza, like great, like that's awesome. Very traditional, no complaints there. But if you want to do like a milkshake IPA with like a Hawaiian pie, then have at it. Like that's your life. It's post-pandemic. So I'd say just try stuff.
Good call on the Vienna lager. No, I second the Vienna lager. That's a great idea.
Vienna with pizzas.
Yes.
The reason that I know so well the Vienna lager pairs well with a pepperoni pizza, Dan, is your fault. So thank you.
Yeah, sorry, I'm guilty there.
Adam, this might be something for you and is kind of a shameless plug for us. Every year we have a guy on the show from a company called Craft Tastings out of the Lancaster, PA area. All he does is food and beer pairings. He is a genius when it comes to this stuff. And Dan, to your point about how, drink what you want when you eat what you want. His motto is there's no wrong answer. Just try something, try it, see what works. If you like something, cool. If you don't, cool, whatever. You're doing your own research. You're finding your own path with it. And you can't go wrong when you're drinking beer and you got pizza.
Well, guys, how many slices are usually in a pie? I understand there's probably different sizes here, but let's say we have multiple slices here. I think you could pair as many.
Wait, you're supposed to share a pizza?
Well, no, I'm not saying share. Let's do some experimenting here.
Yeah, like you can line up 8 different beers with your 8 slices or however many there are. That's my go-to is I believe a pizza should have 8 slices because I'm bad at cutting pizzas.
That's an even number. That works.
Yeah. It's just, you got to cut a couple lines, hit a plate while you're at it. But yeah, I mean, you can set up whatever. The Vienna Lager is going to be good at Pilsner. I mean, the Trogs.
Get a flight.
What's that?
Get a flight.
Yeah, of course.
God bless a flight. I do want to.
Okay.
We're
sorry. I have a couple of insights.
Yeah, I was going to ask Tom what you had.
It's going to make me look like a beer geek or a pizza geek, but so my general thing is I'll drink any beer with any pizza, but there are certainly some, like if it's a hoppy IPA bitter, if you think about like what they'll suggest to drink with really spicy food like Indian food, they'll say drink an IPA. So I think IPAs are really good with any kind of pizza that has a lot of stuff going on, spice and so forth. And I think really carbonated, highly carbonated beers like Steph was talking about, farmhouse ales and stuff, they really go well with fatty things because it tends to lift the fat off your tongue when you're drinking. If you think about drinking bubbles like the champagne or something, it tends to refresh your palate so you can get another bite. So those are my 2 insights anyway.
It's perfect. Very good insights. Very good insights. Especially the carbonation factor that sort of like how the mouthfeel and all that kind of plays into it. I did want to, though, we are coming up on the close of our segment. I know we are a little loose on our out here since we are the last event of the day and end of the 2 days. So we do have a little bit of leeway, but we don't want to go too long. But I did want to bring up Adam, who asked about the beer and pizza pairings, also submitted another far more serious and substantial question that I think would be interesting to address and touches on what we talked about a few minutes ago. He asked about whether there were gatekeepers in the brewing industry that were preventing the industry from becoming more diverse. And if so, and I'm sorry that my screen is really far away if I'm not reading your words exactly verbatim, but what is being done in the brewing community essentially to address the question of diversity. Now, anyone watching can see all of us here. We're not exactly the most diverse panel to be discussing these things, but we do all have a little bit of experience in the industry. I know we over this past summer with the Black Lives Matter movement coming into the forefront, we did make an effort to try to highlight some minority-owned businesses, people of color. We could always do better. So I'm just interested in that vein, in the brewing industry in general as a whole. Do you think that, I mean, there are barriers to diversity. There are barriers to diversity in a lot of places in society, but do you think that those barriers are higher, lower than they used to be? Do you think the last year has changed that? And what do you think is happening positively in the beer industry to sort of address that? And anyone who has an answer ready to go, chime in. Or think about it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to chat about this. I mean, again, I'm relatively new to the beer industry, just about 5 years here with this Workhorse project. So I can't speak historically beyond that or beyond my personal experience. And I think talking about personal experience, like that's one of the biggest things that, I tried to look in the mirror and say, was I as, receptive to diversity as I claim to be? Have I done what I say I should do? Or do I just, post a black square on my Instagram and do some promos and then forget about it? And I think that's what at least I've tried to consider as best we can on the workforce side is, what are the initiatives? Again, going back to what we did with workforce, where what do we do well? What can we do to support? I think it's giving the opportunity to elevate voices. I mean, we've did a partnership with Rec Philly, a really amazing creative space in Center City, where we basically started a sponsorship or a scholarship fund where we donated some money to help BIPOC creatives have the opportunity to fulfill their entrepreneurial dreams, like the opportunities that we've had. So it's not necessarily a beer related type of situation, but it's giving people the opportunity to have their voices heard and to essentially have a level playing field. And I think that's, societally speaking, is really the biggest first step, right? Is getting everyone to play in the same rules and making sure that advantages that, folks like myself have had are available to anybody who wants them. So I don't anticipate that any one individual, let alone anyone here hanging out, drinking beers with us, is going to be able to make the difference on their own. But I think what we can all do is try to take those incremental steps to be receptive, to listen, to spend the time paying attention to this beyond when it's, de rigueur. It's you got to be aware of this well beyond when people are talking about it. So, it's one of those, like, we can't judge by what we're talking about today, but it's where are we in a year from now? Where are we in 5 years from now? What actions did we take collectively to make that happen? So, hopefully we can circle back in a few years and feel like we've made that progress and we're not just saying the same thing over and over again.
Very well put. Very well put.
I agree wholeheartedly. Anybody else have anything to chime in with that? I don't know. Dain, Tom.
I was just going to say, definitely, it starts with an awareness, but we have to make steps from that awareness. There could be, and I think Dan hit it on the head here, a lot of talk about it, but you have to be thoughtful when you're making decisions about the shortcomings, the historical shortcomings of our industry. So, it can be all over the news. It can be all over everywhere, but unless there's steps going to be taken to change it, then we're going to be back at the same spot. Before there was any awareness of, brought to the issue.
So we've mentioned kind of the past year and how we've all been affected and things that your businesses have done to pivot and try to, survive and innovate ways to get your products to your customers. And as a beer consumer, I can say that I appreciate all that has been done in that front. And we kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier. We wanted to think about not only ways that you have pivoted, but if you think anything that you have done will stick around or what you think will be crucial to your business in the next 1 to 5 years that you have learned from the past year. I guess, Tom, why don't we start with you? Is there anything that you think that you guys have done from the past year that may stick around, that you may keep through going into the near future?
Just the to-go model and trying to, like I mentioned earlier, trying to refine and make that a better experience for people. I don't think that's going to go away. I'm optimistic that people will want to come back in to restaurants, and it seems that way. But I think I think in the near term we can't really rely on that. So I think we're just to go beer. We're doing the canning, getting making beer more accessible to people that want to just take it home. And I don't know.
I think you're definitely right about people wanting to go. And I know, Dan, you kind of said something earlier. You can't wait to just go have, a beer at a place or just go to a restaurant and, exist in a restaurant. Once it's clear and safe to do so, I'm going everywhere. I don't care if I've been there. I don't care. It's food I don't like. I'm going everywhere. So I'm assuming there are other people that think like me. So Tom, I think you're right in saying, people want to go. They're going to want to get back out there because we've more or less been deprived a year and change of experiences. And I, for one, have really started feeling the gravity of that situation within the past 2 weeks more than I had the entire past year. And I can't wait to get out there. I can't wait to visit all of your breweries again, to even just, I don't even know what. There's so many things that I would want to do and places I would want to go that it's just all just crowding my brain and I can't articulate.
You know, I literally had this like daydream vision the other day. So I know restrictions and guidelines in different places have been different here and there. Dan and I know Tom, you are here in Philadelphia, and other Dan, in the city, restrictions have been greater than they have been in the rest of the state. So we've been living under slightly tighter lockdowns in general. All that being said is to say, I know I can technically go out and eat in a restaurant right now if I want to. But I haven't in a very long time. And I just had this vision of like being out at a restaurant, drinking a beer and like eating a burger and just like breaking down into tears and being like, this is so normal. Like, this is so normal. And I can't wait till that happens. And, there's plenty of good food and good beer to be had in Philly and in Pennsylvania in general. Yeah. And
I think
awesome to get
a lot of times we kind of take for granted and it's not even just a Pennsylvania thing. I mean, everybody kind of takes for granted the local spots. You look at it as, I can go down the street and pick up a pizza. Yeah, I can, go to my favorite corner bar, but you don't really know what you have until it's gone, unfortunately. And I think this year has made us realize that, holy cow, man, we really got to support the local places if we want them to be there in our lives going forward. And I think that, can apply to all of your businesses because, you feed and liquor up the local communities. And, I'd argue it's very necessary.
It is. Well, that's also the sense of community coming together and bonding that beer and brewing brings. We are getting close to we're past our time, but like I said, it's not so strict right now.
For a couple minutes.
So we probably should wrap up. If anyone else in the chat or anything has something to ask, if you want to pop in some questions in the next couple seconds, we'll try to rapid fire those out. Otherwise, we'll start making our exit here, I think.
Yeah, I think we should. First and foremost, we want to say thank you to everybody that's out there watching and listening. Of course, we want to say thank you to the fine panelists that we have here. So I guess we'll kind of go rapid fire. I guess we can start with Dan. If anybody wants to learn more about Workhorse, where should they go?
They can go to workhorsebrewing.com to learn more about what we're doing. Although if you just want to buy beer, shop.workhorsebrewing.com will be the place to go. We do statewide shipping, do at-home delivery within about a 13-ish mile radius of KOP and pretty much all throughout Center City. Guaranteed same-day delivery if you order by 3 p.m. We also do contactless pickup at the tap room, and we are open for indoor and outdoor dining 7 days a week, food and beer. You can also just shoot me an email or hit us up on social media. We're always happy to chat and shoot the breeze. And it's been great to come on with you guys. Appreciate the time. And Dain and Tom, thanks for your insights as well. I'm a fan of both of the work that you guys do and hope to share beer with you in the future in person here soon.
That is awesome. Dan, I have one thing I need to say, and I'm going to say publicly because I have to now. You need your Center City location to expand delivery half a mile south. Just going to throw that out there. It was cool last year, but now the site's automated and it cuts off a half mile north of our house.
You know that all you have to do is just raise that beer buster's hand and beer will come to your house.
Well, I know. I kind of don't want to take advantage of any pull we may or may not have in the industry, but
or you could just drop it on the point of having friends in the beer industry is to take advantage of us, use us. That's the deal.
No. Well, Dan, thank you for being part of the panel. Thank you for all that you have done over the years that you have at Workhorse. And thanks for being a good friend to us here at Beer Busters.
Oh, thank you guys. Feel the same way.
Oh, thanks. Thank you. Tom, if people want to learn more about Earthbread Brewery, where should they go?
They can go to earthbreadbrewery.com. We're not a sophisticated, online site there, but they can see our menus and our hours and make a reservation for dining in if they care to. I'll also like to plug Brewery Techni and Bar Hygge. That's Hygge down in Spring Garden. And they have an online store. You can buy beer, and we have a wine shop there as well. You can get some wines. And I'd just like to thank you guys for having me. I really enjoyed it. It was very interesting to talk to hear what other people are doing. And thanks.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for joining us. And I'm glad we could finally connect. It's very long overdue. So thank you for yeah. Dain, of course, that leaves St. Boniface. Where can people go to find more about your projects?
Well, head on over to stbonifacebrewing.com. We also, you can check out our what's going on in Lidditz at tidehouseliditz.com. It's a full service restaurant over there, serving all PA liquors, wines, and our beer right now. 24 lines. We'll probably have some room for some guest taps once draft accounts start coming back a little bit more. So that's something to keep in mind. But yeah, we're based in Ephrata. So if I don't know where the majority of our viewers are coming from, if you're in Philly, wander out to Amish country and visit us in Ephrata or Lidditz. But in the city, we're being distributed through ABV Beverage out of Port Richmond. Check them out. We're in a couple spots here and there all over the city. But hit us up on social media if you're interested in finding a beer in the 5 counties, or come visit us out in Lancaster County.
It's always a good time. Dain, we can't thank you enough for being part of this as well. I mean, everything you've done beer wise, food wise, and you've been an old chum of ours for a while. Thanks for taking part.
Can I just say that I just want to interject real quick here. When you mentioned Tide House, in the past year, I have been to 2 restaurants to dine in. One was Tide House and the other was in Chicago.
Nice. Awesome.
Yeah, that was a fun night at Tide House. But yes, thank you all 3 of you for chiming in. It's been fantastic. Nate, I want to, of course.
Hold on. I also have to point out the one time in the last year that the 3 of us have been together in person was at Tide House. The last time we recorded in real life podcast time was March 13th, 2020. And the only time all 3 of us were together in person since then was Tide House.
Yeah, that is very true. Good point.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's fine. It's a very good point.
Right, Steph, you can just jump in front of me like that. That's fine.
So Nate, of course, we want to say thank you to you for helping us with the panel and taking time with this. I know we mentioned it earlier when we introed you at the top of the hour, but where can people go to find out about GK Visual and what projects should they look for and what's on the horizon?
Yeah, our big thing is Port and PA. So check that out on YouTube. It's Port and PA on everything, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. And the best thing you can do for us is subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's the way you'll find out when a new episode is released. All our panelists here have been in episodes. Tom was in our film. And I got to jump in here real quick. I'm looking at these guys and I'm just realizing like these are 3 of some of my favorite summer beers. So like the lemon meringue, the pollinator, and the pina colada beer from Workhorse have all made it to the beach with me. I actually found a pina colada the other day and still had sand on it. So
did you drink that beer? Still, ooh.
It wasn't terrible.
Did it hold up okay?
Yeah. I was impressed.
Man.
Thank you guys. This has been a lot of fun.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us.
Of course, yeah. It was an accidental experiment with that pina colada, I suppose. Glad it worked out.
We also need to make sure that we give a sincere thank you to Deer Creek, people that have been close to our hearts, very close to the beginning of our podcast. So we love them and thank you for asking us to be a part of this amazing 2 days of content. We also want to thank you, Sciences, and everyone else that has been involved in the Philly Grain and Malt Symposium. And we're really proud to have gotten to be a part of this closing event. So thank you guys very much.
Yeah, this is.
I'll hop on the thank you wagon here too quick. Thank you everyone for the work on the happy hour. Really nice, fun way to end 2 full days of programming. A lot of people contributed. A lot of people behind the scenes too, who are still managing the Q&A and the chat. And thank you for making it the event that it is. So cheers. That's a wrap for the symposium.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Also find Beer Busters online. We're out there. Just Google us.
Yeah. Beerbusterspodcast.com. For Wayne and Steph, I'm Dan Baker. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you to everybody who participated and cheers to everybody.